Hello, it's Phillip Taylor from Richmond Green Chambers speaking, and I'm looking at a book from Elgar, who published a lot of EU publications. This is the Antitrust Revolution in Europe, exploring the European Commission's cartel policy by Lee McGowan. It's a small book, 200 pages, and basically it's got the usual stuff, a lot of very important information at the front, with references and so forth. Lots of notes, and at the back you've got a very detailed bibliography, and you've got an index which is also of great use. As I say, the book is a small one, very much in the field of the titles which Elgar produced. We've written a Flickr review. My wife Elizabeth and I have written this review here. We've given it the title, Developing European Antitrusts to Deter the Cartelists in a Changing Economic Environment. Now, what do we mean by that? Well, when we read through the book, it became apparent very quickly that the 200-odd pages are very relevant to a wide variety of readers, lawyers, academics and students alike. So the Antitrust Revolution, as explained here, has direct relevance to those studying regulatory politics and policy making in Europe. As Lee McGowan writes in his preface, interest in European competition policy has never been higher, and the literature has never been richer. Well said. Recent reviews by the European Commission in all areas of competition law are taking place, so when considering the evolution, aims and developments of antitrust policy, McGowan's focus on the way the Commission has sought to combat cartels is very timely in our view. This book is actually as much about politics as it is about the public policy approach to developments, and his historic analysis combined with careful empirical work underpins the entire thesis. Probably the most useful areas for many readers is the investigation into what can be described as internationalization of European cartel policy, thus explaining the future external and internal challenges which will be faced in the near future. It's very much a book for today. McGowan states that cartels have very rarely attracted the attention of political science, whilst cartel busting has always been one of the foremost activities of the Commission. Whilst there may be a debate between the commentators, of course, on whether the recent reforms are revolutionary or merely the latest development in a regime that has been continually marked by the neoliberal turn of the 1980s, one thing is actually quite clear, and that is we're living in interesting times as the current economic downturn impacts on competition law. Now, in the book there are 8 chapters covering these points: origins and scope of European competition policy, uncovering cartels, the rise of the cartel, the dawn of the competition principle from 1945 to 57, establishing the architecture of the EU cartel governance, European cartel policy 1963 to 1998, the Antitrust Revolution from 1999, and internationalization of cartel policy. So you can see it flows through historically very nicely. We can highly recommend this book to lawyers, politicians and political scientists, especially those looking for a broader grounding in cartel policy. So all the goalposts seem to be moving. The final word, we think, can be left with the excellently unwritten. There is little doubt that competition policy finally came of age in the course of the last 20 years, he said, writing in 2000. Then we had the sudden and unexpected collapse of Lehman Brothers in September 2009. This leads McGowan to a reasonable conclusion on the penultimate page of the main text. Whatever the future holds for European competition policy, and softening is expected in certain areas, the war against cartels is unlikely to change. He's right, but one thing remains: we don't know what will happen in the changing economic environment, and no one has a crystal ball for that. It's a great read, McGowan, so thanks at least for the ideas. Thanks, bye-bye.